Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Write My Dudes interview sessions. This is Bill McCamley, and I am very, very pleased today to be joined by my friend and an expert on food and nutrition, Shahid Mustafa. So, Shahid ran the co-op in my hometown for many, many years and was part of organizing food distribution and helping people figure out nutritional and healthy ways of eating for a long time. And a few years ago, he actually moved into the farming field and literally, and is now actually providing fresh fruits and vegetables to people through a delivery service and from his own farm and by sourcing from other local farms. And he's here today to talk to us about nutrition and food, healthy eating, and how we can do it without trying to kill ourselves in terms of time and affordability. Shahid, thanks a ton for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
So, can you just give us like a quick rundown of your background on this topic and a little bit about how you became an expert in the field of nutrition and food?
Okay, I'll try to make it as quick as possible. It starts in about year 1989, actually. And it just kind of happened. I started working at a health food store. It was one of my first jobs, and fortunately, I worked in the produce department. So it was part of my responsibility to be able to identify things, to know how to keep them up. And over time, it required that I actually learn about stuff like how, what it tastes like and what it's good for, and, all the different ways to prepare it. I came in, with very little knowledge. I grew up as a kid, probably could identify, five or six vegetables that I was familiar with that I actually ate. But then I learned that this world existed of greens, half of which I never knew what they were, let alone what they taste like, how to prepare them, what nutritional value they had. So I kind of learned from that moment, because I had this thing about me where being a clerk or a person in charge of a department, people always ask you a bunch of questions. And I was committed to not knowing or making sure I didn't know the answer twice. Like, not knowing it once I could accept, but twice was okay. I can't not know it twice. So pretty much that's how I learned. I mean, I, started in 1989, and here it is, 2026, right? So about that many years is how much I've been involved in some way in this sector, whether it was in retail, managing stores, and I guess I started doing my own farming in about 20 about 2011. And so it's been that long that I've actually been growing food. And so that's kind of my, expertise. I got that many hours, that many years, but I never went to school for it. I was a journalism major, and this was, retail was my fallback on job. It ended up being my career, and now, journalism is just a hobby,
And now you've been farming for 15 years.
at least. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Shahid, real quick, if you can keep this short, because I'm curious what your answer is.
Okay.
What is nutrition to you?
Nutrition to me is the uptake of vital vitamins and minerals and other nutrients through the digestion of food. Like, that's a major way that we get most of what's going to sustain us in life, not just in terms of a caloric intake, but also in helping to preserve our cells, our cellular structure, our muscular structure, our bone structure. All of that stuff is dependent on what we put into our bodies as food.
And so, just to define this real quick, the caloric intake is what we need to give us energy. It's what our
Correct.
body breaks down so we can go through the day. All the other stuff that provides for our health is kind of what you're talking about right now in terms of the cellular structure, keeping ourselves healthy, that sort of thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Wellness and general maintenance.
Now, why is this important for a lot of fellas out there? I mean, I've been doing a lot of work on the mental health front and can talk a little bit about how when you rely on fast food so much, the amount of sugar that you get makes you feel really, really good for an hour or two. And then when that wears off, it's almost like a drug, right? Where you get that high and then you come down and then you need to eat another hamburger to be able to get that high or ingest that soda or whatever to go up and then you come down again. And that sort of thing is not great because it increases the body's inflammation response, which is bad for all sorts of things, and it makes it harder to sleep.
Absolutely.
I'm curious if you could go further into that and really explain why good nutrition is important for our physical and mental health.
Okay, absolutely.
And we have some time
Uh,
on this one.
okay. So in terms of physical and mental health, physical is relatively obvious. It's like, okay, we know we need certain things in our body in order to maintain wellness, in order to grow. A lot of us learn a little bit about nutrition when we want to cook up, like whether it's from sports or whether it's cocking. We just want to look good physically. We want to be attractive to other people. And so we kind of focus on some of that stuff, and we learned about amino acids, and we learned about all these other things, like these other products that are going to kind of get us fast to where we want to go in terms of like protein intake and maybe creating ways to hydrate yourself so you can look more defined. So we get pretty expert on a lot of those things, right? Without thinking about overall, like what else is our body really needing other than what we want for it to look a certain way, right? Where a lot of the lack of information comes in, I think, and I don't, I know from my own experience, it came from the fact that I never really cooked. I never really had to cook anything, and what I did cook was just quick, hot dogs, hamburgers, TV dinners, pizza, frozen pizzas. That was the kind of stuff that I grew up thinking was like cooking,
Mhm.
right? Any other time that I got something like a salad on my plate, it wasn't because I put it there, right? Greens, broccoli, things like that. And quite frankly, from what I know now, I didn't. That wasn't like overly the experience. It was mostly the meat and potatoes, the carbs and the proteins. Those were the things. And so, what I've learned about the intake of more greens for my own physical health was it really helped to improve the thing that was obvious was digestion. The fiber and the magnesium that is abundant in fresh greens. And when I say fresh, I don't mean just like raw. I mean like the thing that wasn't in a can. Frozen is okay, but mostly like if I ate spinach growing up, it came out of a can. I didn't even know what it looked like to be fresh, except Popeye. Like, all right, obviously it's a leaf, but even he ate out of a can actually. So we didn't grow up with this knowledge or this personal sort of like expectation to know how to even use these things, right? I was fortunate in that I was at least 19 when I was exposed to it, but many people are never exposed to it in that way unless they have a partner or somebody that they're with is more into adding that to their diet. And generally, we just take it. And usually, we take it based on taste. Like, how does this taste? Some of the things that I've grown accustomed to and really love the taste of, I'm not as surprised as I used to be with how distasteful it can seem to people who are not used to it. And I think that's just like a lack of familiarity. Like our palates haven't sort of like matured enough to be able to respect like the different tastes in food. If it's not salt or sugar or zest, then we don't know what to it doesn't taste quote unquote right to us.
So, Shahid, let me interrupt you real quick because I think you're hitting the nail on the head with one of the issues here, which is people think fast food hamburgers taste good. They think a frozen pizza tastes good, et cetera, and so on. what are the specific health issues if I just eat that stuff versus if I start working more fresh foods into my diet, more nutritious foods into my diet? How does that affect me moving forward, both physically and mentally?
Okay, well, physically, it's going to deprive you of the vital trace minerals that you can't find that in fast food. They don't exist. They're either cooked out or they were never there to begin with.
What is a
So
trace mineral?
so trace minerals are like the latent minerals that literally come from the soil.
Mm,
Okay. They transfer from the soil into the plant, and that's how our bodies are able to digest them. Most minerals are too big molecularly for our cells to be able to absorb them. So they have to be transferred from the soil through the root system into the plant, and that's how we get them into our bodies. Um, Otherwise, we don't get them, and you don't get them in fast food. They don't exist in any way whatsoever. And trace minerals are as critical as the vitamin C's, the vitamin A's, the things that we know about. Trace minerals are actually generally like components to those broader vitamins and minerals, and that they're more like carriers, and make sure that those things, because some of those can even be really big, but the trace minerals help them to actually like penetrate our cells. So we're talking about cellular health, cellular reproduction. People don't realize like your body's always changing,
mm.
right? Your cells are always regenerating. In a 3 month span, you're not the same person literally that you were 3 months ago. And so if you're not feeding those cells, you're becoming whatever it is that you're eating based on the availability, right? That the old adage, you are what you eat, it really is true. Like you become that thing. How our minerals and vitamins affect our physical health can be obvious. Like, it's empty calories that turns into sugar, that turns into fat, that turns into things that you don't want necessarily in your body, let alone like what it's doing to your arteries and what it's doing to your digestive system. Like a lot of our issues, a lot of our common ailments, even like high blood pressure, if you don't have a balance of nutrition that is complete with the salts that you need that come from vegetables, you
Can you
don't
give an
have.
example of that, Shahid? What do you mean? Can you
Sure.
like give a specific example of one of these trace minerals?
Iodine.
Okay, I don't know what that is other than from medical
Right.
use.
From well, you see salt. You have iodized salt or you have non-iodized salt, right? You see that in the grocery store. You got to pick between those two salts. Well, iodine is actually like an essential component that we all need. But because we mostly get it from things that are not easily available to our cells, it can be a problem. So you can get high blood pressure because you get too much kind of like fake or salt that the body is not really recognizing as something that it should actually like include into your digestive system and into your cells. So it creates these responses.
Mm.
Mostly it affects your heart and your blood, right? And so our blood actually needs in many cases some kind of lubricant that makes it more viscous, that makes it be able to flow easier. Iodine is that thing. Iodine is one, and magnesium is another one. Now, some of us take magnesium because we know that it helps us be calm. It might help us to not be constipated. It might help us get deeper sleep.
Yep.
Those are generally produced in a way where the irony is like most of these things that you can actually get any value from are extracted from a food, but we're used to having them in a pill,
Got it.
right? So everything can be broken down to its most like distillate form and turned into a capsule or a pill for us. But the availability, like the direct and probably most effective delivery system for that is through fresh greens, right? And that's something that a lot of us don't know about. Like, we know about, we can probably name like four greens that we not only like know the name of, but we also are familiar with them. Like we've eaten them, and we that doesn't even mean we know how to cook them, but at least it means like we know we eat these things. And if we were eating them more regularly, we would actually be more familiar with them and we'd probably figure out different ways to enjoy them. And so where our need, I think as men, especially in this society, um, needs to be kind of addressed is around literacy around all of these things. And as a side note, I will tell you, fellas, greens are sexy. Whether you might not think of them that way, but it's an indication that you have dedicated in some ways some part of your life to self-care. And I think that really is important. When people know that you will take care of yourself, they assume wrongly or rightly that you might also take care of others, right? But at least that is an indicator that you are aware of what's happening with your body and you care about it and you're trying to maintain
So I want to interrupt right there and back
it.
Shahid up on this because there was a fairly well-traveled meme going around online from a woman who said any guy on a dating app should have like 4 or 5 pictures, a picture of your bookshelf, a picture of your dog, a picture of what you do for workout, but they also said a picture of your fresh produce in your refrigerator. And that goes to Shahid's point. Shahid, I want to talk about energy levels because a lot of fellas, especially young men, want to maintain good energy levels. How does eating right versus eating the fast food, etc., really contribute to that quality that we all want to have moving forward in our lives?
Okay. Um, so one of the things that I've learned, and I'm gonna try to focus on greens because I think that's a really good place to stay focused, right? Because there's a lot of things that we can talk about, but greens I think are like an easy, accessible
Sure.
thing to get used to and get access to. Um, so the green in a vegetable is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is literally energy from the sun converted and captured within that plant. Okay. What chlorophyll does is it actually oxygenates our blood. And the more oxygen that we have in our system, we know because some of us take like nitric oxide, we look for that, right? The bioavailable source for that is dark leafy greens, right? In terms of energy, wellness, that's why people started making green smoothies, right? Introducing greens to their life in that way, because they've realized by adding more chlorophyll into your body, first of all, you're going to have healthier blood, which is a preventative, like it keeps you from getting sick. But the amount of oxygen that you're taking into your blood is going to determine how much energy you have to do anything else.
Gotcha. So let's move on real quick. A lot of guys, but people in general, especially in today's societies, are worrying about, as you talked about, what's fast, easy, and tastes good. And they see pizza or burgers or whatever they can get, burritos, which are kind of my kryptonite in terms of all this.
Right.
What are some quick, easy tips that people can do to add more greens and other nutritious food into their diet so that it's not, I have to take forever to prepare this thing and it's somewhat affordable?
Well, I think the one of the quickest ways to get greens into your diet, if you don't grow your own food or whatever, it's going to be a shift in your lifestyle. Like you have to commit to it, right? And you can get fresh greens from most stores. I think it's the preparation time and experience that people lack. They don't know how to make it taste good. You're gonna have to commit to learning that and learning what works for you, because there's no quick and easy unless you. At one point in my life, I was a raw foodist, and I would just like food for me was you take it out of the ground or off the shelf, you rinse it off, and you eat it.
Mm.
That was it. Like there was no for me need to like flavor anything. It was like I'm eating this, and And what happened with that was I began to be able to taste the different flavor profiles and things separate from what I was adding to it and grow an appreciation from that. That might be something that people can try. I mean, it really is the quickest and easiest way. It's just like, yeah, man, you take down a bunch of greens raw,
You just eat it.
you know, that's tough. That's rugged. I mean, I think that if it that might be an easy way, an intro, but it's not what most people are going to do because they're like I said, we're not adjust our palates aren't necessarily adjusted to that. I would say commit some time focusing on a few greens that you already are at least interested in and figuring out like how can I incorporate these into my daily diet, whether that's picking a day to just do a meal prep and say, look,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a bunch of soup, or I'm gonna chop a bunch of greens and put it in bags. I'm gonna add it to whatever I'm eating. I'm gonna make sure that I'm taking this in every day. Or you can incorporate the method that I see a lot of people incorporate, which is just like I'm just gonna dump a bunch of greens into a blender,
Yeah.
throw a banana in there and some, whatever my preference of beverage, and I'm gonna drink my greens every day.
So to Shahid's point, I have been getting a bag of vegetables, sometimes fruit from him now for about 6, 7 months every week on my door. And he is serious about the greens because I get a shitload of greens. And it's actually a struggle for me to eat all of these things. So what I've been doing is a couple things. Number one, I make a big crock pot of soup once a week. And part of that soup, I generally do lentils, canned tomatoes, and then whatever vegetables Shahid gives me. So that's radishes, it's onions, but it's a lot of greens. And I'll put the greens in the soup and it will kind of reduce into the soup, but I will eat one bowl of that every day. And it's really, really helping. It's a way to make sure I'm getting all my vegetables in. The lentils are really good, but also my greens. So I'm at least getting a serving of that every day. The other thing I started doing with Shahid's greens is just get a little saucepan, put a little oil in the pot, put a little garlic in there, and just put the green in the pot. Wait about 5 minutes, and it'll reduce in there because it'll be nice and fluffy in the saucepan. But after a little while, it'll reduce in, and I'll just eat that, with some chicken and some rice or things like that. Shahid, do you have any other kind of other than the blender thing, which is really good? Are there any other ways that folks can really focus on eating these? Whoa, that's a lot of greens. That's where all the greens I have come from. What are some of the
That's
ways
your dinner.
people
That's
can
your dinner.
eat those things?
I just wanted to show my commitment. Here's my commitment to greens.
What are some other quick ways people can eat those things?
Well, I think the sautéing. I mean, there's a lot of dishes where greens don't have to be the primary. Like you can add it to meat dishes. You can chop up greens, maybe throw in some chicken or some sausage, throw it on the pasta. Like there's so many different ways. Soups are really easy. It's just water and greens, and maybe, like I say, you might throw in a protein. Miso soup. Miso soup is one that's really good. And the good thing about miso is that it is fermented. It adds fermentation to the process, which actually helps your body to absorb those nutrients even faster.
That's great. Cool, man. Well, listen, this is awesome. Really, really appreciate your insight here and some tips for people to eat better. I know we just passed the new year, and a lot of people for their New Year's resolutions really focus on working out and eating right. Those are the two top ones, right? So here's some ways you can actually do that. Thanks a ton, Shahid. We'll probably check back in with you here later on as we go
Please
through
do.
nutrition throughout the year. And
Okay.
we really appreciate your insight, man. Any final words for folks?
Eat your greens, man.
Got it.
Learn your greens. Like I say, man, it's a good look, bro. You want to have that in your life.
Well, thanks, brother. Appreciate you and have a great rest of your new year.
All right, you too. Take